What can you learn about your horse by falling off of him? Find out in this episode of Barn Stories.
Welcome to the Barn Stories podcast. I'm Lori Prinz, editor of Equus Magazine.
And I'm managing editor Christine Barakat.
This podcast features our favorite essays and articles published in Equus over the past 40 years. Although Equus is known for articles on horse care and veterinary research, our editorial mission has always been guided by the bond that exists between horses and people. And each issue has featured a real-life story that celebrates how horses enrich our lives and touch our hearts.
We've searched our archives, chosen the stories that resonated with our readers, and given them new life in this audio format. Longtime subscribers may recognize some of their favorite pieces. And if you're new to the Equus community, these stories will confirm that no matter what sort of saddle you sit in, a deep emotional connection to horses is something we all share.
The essay we've picked for this episode addresses a universal experience for riders, falling off. Fortunately, the writer isn't injured in her fall, nor is she traumatized, but she comes away from it wanting to know more about how it happened. Ultimately, she develops a greater appreciation for how her horse sees the world.
I'll admit my first reaction after falling off isn't reflection on what it might teach me about my horse. As I get up off the ground, I'm usually wondering what it is I need to teach him so it doesn't happen again. So this story was a reminder that it's not about me all the time, which is a great life lesson in general, but particularly important when you're trying to develop a true partnership with a horse.
So let's listen to From the Ground Up, written by Leslie Curl and read by Taylor Autumn.
Let me be clear. I do not advocate falling off a horse. But when I recently came off my slightly green, alpha personality quarter horse, Sundance, I learned a lot. And it wasn't about technique or communication. It was about gaining a better understanding of who he is. We were alone in an arena at a nearby equestrian center when we had a run-in with the gate. I came off gently, and he took off toward the far end of the arena. I just stood and watched him. He flat out ran to the other end, perhaps not so coincidentally toward home, then, still at full speed, followed the rail around to about mid-arena, where he turned toward home again. He ran several laps in this way. As a spectator, I have to say, it was a beautiful sight. There is nothing as graceful as a running horse. But, I thought, if this had happened on a trail, he would have been long gone. You've heard of those horses who don't abandon their owners when they fall off? First lesson, Sundance is not one of those horses. At least not yet. Sundance called out a couple of times while he ran those laps, and I wondered whom he thought he was calling to, since there were no other horses nearby. Second lesson. In times of distress, Sundance will look for any other horse rather than me for comfort. After he ran himself out and began trotting, I started my approach. Still on high alert, he kept his distance. I stood still and waited. After a minute, Sundance stopped and stared at me. It was as if his mind had suddenly come back online and he recognized me. His surprised expression seemed to say, "What are you doing here?"
Hey, have you heard? The good folks from Farnam are giving away a gorgeous, decked-out Farnam 75th anniversary John Deere Gator, filled with $1,000 worth of Farnam horse care products. Visit www.farnam.com/75-giveaway to see the prizes and enter for a chance to win. Again, that's www.farnam.com/75-giveaway. Happy 75th anniversary, Farnam. Thank you for always being our partner in horse care.
I know there's a lot of debate on what horses actually think and feel. Some people consider them to be dumb, but I believe there's a lot going on between those fuzzy ears. I can't tell you exactly what Sundance felt about my witnessing his panic attack, but I believe it was something akin to embarrassment. He lowered his head and slowly walked toward me. Third lesson, he may not turn to me first during a panic attack, But when his mind comes back, I am a person that he trusts. After quickly checking over him and my tack, I remounted. We did a few more short exercises in the arena, then headed home. Sundance was absolutely perfect during the extra work, the ride home, then a few extra laps and untacking. My slightly green quarter horse, who was never absolutely perfect, was perfect. Fourth lesson, in everyday riding, Sundance understands what to do. He just often chooses to argue about it. And finally, the takeaway lesson. The first and foremost thing I need to work on is establishing a better relationship with Sundance, one based on trust and respect. I've heard it said that alpha horses aren't looking for a leader. They'll accept one, but they're not looking for one. It's clear to me that my quarter horse does not wholeheartedly accept my leadership. Perhaps he'll always be testing me to make sure I'm still up for the role. Either way, the light went on. Sundance doesn't need more training per se, as much as he needs to learn to trust and respect me more. Only then will our experiences on the trail improve. I decided that maybe I should spend less time on drills and more on tackling little challenges and achieving small victories together. I still do not advocate falling off a horse, but every incident provides the opportunity to learn something. The trick is to try to keep an open mind, to see things that hadn't occurred to you before.
Thanks for listening to Barn Stories. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a favorite article or essay from the Equus archives that you'd like us to feature in a future podcast, let us know. You can reach us at equusbarnstories, all one word, @gmail.com.
Did you enjoy this episode of Barn Stories? Head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Thanks for listening. The Barn Stories podcast is a production of the Equine Podcast Network, an entity of the Equine Network.